Hey everyone, it's Lexie. So in today's video I'll be sharing with you my summer reading book recommendations. So there are a few books and styles of books that I like to read kind of throughout the summer months. Either they take place in kind of a hot climate or just kind of fun contemporary / romance books. That's usually what I tend to gravitate towards more during the summer months. So I feel like I have a good variety of books here that are kind of different genres but still kind of have that summery vibe. So without further ado, let's get started. So first up, I have a historical fiction book that kind of takes place during the hot summer months, and it is The Paris Library by Janet Skeslien Charles, and this is a dual historical fiction storyline. So we follow a young woman in France during World War II, specifically during the Nazi occupation of France, and she works at the Paris Library, and she ends up getting involved with the French resistance. And kind of the present day storyline takes place in the 80s, where we follow this young girl named Lily who ends up befriending her older mysterious next door neighbor, and obviously the two storylines kind of become intertwined and it kind of goes off from there. But one of the things I remember about this book, not only kind of the historical fiction aspect and the library aspect in here, which I really enjoyed, was that it kind of gives me a summer vibe based on the kind of the hot summertime. I could totally picture being in Paris when it was super hot last summer. I can totally relate with no air conditioning, just being in this massive library structure and trying to kind of keep your cool while these Nazis are kind of going about. And I really enjoyed this. It's just when I think of this, I think of a hot Paris, day, and it gives me that summer vibe. This one is really interesting, I think, also because it takes place in a library. I think if you enjoy books and you like libraries, I think it kind of fits in perfectly. But yeah, it's just a lot of fun. I do enjoy kind of the present day storyline too, where Lily ends up befriending kind of the old grumpy French neighbor, and it kind of goes off from there. But it was really interesting getting to hear these two stories and how they become intertwined. And yeah, it takes place in a library, so what else is there to that's just perfect. Next up, I have a romance trilogy, which is essentially just kind of companions books within the series. You don't need to read them specifically in order, and it is the Brown Sisters trilogy by Talia Hibbert. This is probably one of my favorite, more adult kind of romance novels, but it follows the Brown sisters and each of their experiences in falling in love. And yeah, I read these during the summer. I want to say during COVID or summer 2021. It just all blends together, but I remember reading this during the summertime, and I feel like it's just the perfect time to do so. Like I said, I feel like this is my favorite of the kind of adult romances that I've read. I feel like Talia Hibbert does a really good job at not only integrating kind of really fun kind of romances, but integrating a lot of depth and complexity to her characters. She deals with a lot of very interesting topics, such as people who experience chronic pain or mental health disease, not mental health disease, but mental health issues, or multiracial couples, or autism, all those things. She adds in a lot of depth and complexity to these romance novels, which I really enjoy. I definitely want to reread these. I think I definitely will reread these. I still remember these pretty well, but these are books that I think I would definitely recommend and want to revisit in the future. They're a lot of fun, and I feel like each sister and each book is very different, and like I said, it stands on its own. You don't really need to read them in any particular order, but I just really enjoyed the sisters and the romance. They are a little bit more on the steamy and graphic side, so just be a little bit aware of that, but overall they're just really fun reads. I think my favorite is Actor Age Eve Brown, but yeah, these are just perfect summer romance books to read. Next up, this is a recent read for me, and it kind of takes place during kind of peak summer, or like the start of summer in Australia, so it kind of gives me that like summer vibe. And it is Homecoming by Kate Morton. This is again a dual storyline where we follow this girl who in present day, her grandmother has fallen down the stairs and she ends up in the hospital. So when she flies from London to Australia, she uncovers this family secret that has been kept hidden to her entire life, where she finds out that her grandmother's brother's side of the family was completely murdered in one day, and it was a mystery. It was believed to be a murder-suicide, where the family was just found dead on Christmas Day or Christmas Eve, one of those days. But it kind of goes from there. So she's trying to uncover the past of her family's history, and especially this horrific family kind of secret that has been kept from her. And this kind of takes place during kind of the summertime. At least the past storyline takes place during kind of the summertime in Australia. And a lot of the, like, one of the major themes of this book is home, and kind of Australia itself. The setting of the countryside in Australia is very much a forefront and kind of a major component of this story. So it just kind of gives you that like summery feeling where you can feel hot with these characters just lounging around in the Australian summer heat. And there is a really good kind of mystery aspect in here. I will say it's a little bit of a slow burn, but once you kind of get through the halfway point, like I literally marathoned the last like 250 pages in one day because I couldn't put it down and I just wanted to know, like, fill in the pieces of the puzzle. So it is a lot of fun, and yeah, especially it's like a bigger book. I feel like this is like a nice lazy summer day reading outside type of book, so it kind of fits right in. Next up, I have Happy Place by Emily Henry. This is by far my favorite of Emily Henry's books. A lot of them have been hit or miss, and like I know this is a very hyped author just online, and I like didn't really understand the hype. Like some of the books were okay, but I wasn't blown away by some of these books. I will say this one is definitely my favorite. So it follows two people who every year their friend group does a little vacation together, and however this year is a little bit different because they have broken off their engagement, but they haven't told anyone. So they want to keep up this act that they're still together, just to not spoil the vacation with their friends, and then they will tell everyone afterwards. So while this is going on, where they're trying to kind of keep the store, like their kind of keep their secret for the week, you're getting flashbacks of them kind of meeting and eventually what led to the breaking point within their relationship. I think this one was the best, even though like I said, this one was like I was really invested. I read this one really quickly, and it was just a lot of fun. I feel like in this case it wasn't people kind of, you know, meeting and falling in love. It was more of like trying to patch the cracks within the relationship and kind of re-falling in love with someone that you have a 10-year history with. I really enjoyed it. I just thought it was a lot of fun. I love the like vacation aspect to it as well, and then trying to keep this secret from the friend group. And obviously that leads to kind of like cliche scenarios in which like you kind of like the proposal where it's like fake dating or like fake relationships type of thing. So I think if you like The Proposal, I think you will like this book. Like I said, if Emily Henry is hit or miss with me, but this one definitely was like the biggest hit in my eyes. And finally, I have Sunflower Sisters by Martha Hall Kelly. This is the final book in the like Faraday trilogy. And again, similar to the Brown Sisters trilogy, they're companion novels, so you don't necessarily need to read them in order. The first book, Lilac Girls, takes place during World War II. The second book, Lost Roses, takes place during World War I. And the Sunflower Sisters takes place during the Civil War, but you still follow kind of the same family. So you follow Georgie, who I think is the great aunt of the main character in the World War I book, and then we follow the daughter of the main character from the second book in the first book that takes place in World War II. So you kind of follow this family, this real life family, during these kind of major world and kind of like war events. And so this one we follow Georgie, who is kind of like a higher upper class family, and she wants to really contribute to the Civil War that's going on. Specifically, she wants to be a nurse for the North. And then we also get two other perspectives in here as well. We get a slave and then the slave owner's perspective, and similar to the other books in this series, there's like two very obvious connections in terms of how the stories interline, but all three narratives end up becoming interconnected. And in this one in particular, you kind of get the South kind of, you know, plantation, like hot summer vibe with this one. And I think this is, again, even though this is a little bit bigger, I think the Summertime's a perfect book to really kind of dive into this historical fiction novel. In particular, I do find historical fiction fun to read during the winter time, where it's kind of, you know, dark and cold and kind of like that vibe. But there are some historical fictions that I feel like have a more summery vibe. This is one of them. Even just like by the cover, you can see it is more kind of summery, but this one is really intriguing. I think the author did a really good job at really kind of capturing the slave owner dynamic, and specifically the brutality that took place in here. I know even though the author is white, she did a really good job at kind of researching and trying to get that slave perspective. Specifically, she reached out to people whose descendants were slaves and or ancestors were slaves that had really good kind of documented experiences throughout this specific era. So I think she really tried to honor that point of view of kind of being a slave during the Civil War in America, which I thought was really well done. She does kind of draw a lot of parallels of the kind of racist, kind of cyclic societal issues that are still kind of relevant today, that even though this was over 100 years ago, a lot of the themes in racist rhetoric is still very prevalent today in American society. So I really enjoyed kind of the parallels to our current day issues. And yeah, Martha Hall Kelly does a really good job at kind of weaving in all of these different perspectives into one novel. So, and again, I haven't really read anything from the Civil War era from a historical fiction point of view. I think this was maybe the second or third one. So I really enjoyed it. It was a really kind of fresh take on a dual perspective, or trice perspective historical fiction. So yeah, if you're looking for something a little bit different, I highly recommend this series overall, and this book in particular. Again, you don't really need to read them in order, but yeah, she does a really good job at like showcasing these creating fictionalized stories around women who had a very pivotal kind of role in the war. So that's it, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments below what some of your summer reading recommendations are and all of that fun stuff. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, and I will see you guys next time. Bye, guys.